Okay, so this is chapter 6.1, Circles and Circumference. And before we really get started, we just need to draw a circle and make sure we know what we're talking about. All right, so this is a circle. Everybody understands that. I don't even need to label it because you all know that that's a circle. There's something in the middle of a circle that's just a dot, and it's equal distance from all the other sides. It's called the center of the circle. We can label that with just like a little C. They usually will draw a line across the circle. Maybe we'll make it green, and the line that goes across the circle goes from one edge and it crosses the circle, but always goes through the center. It has to cross the circle and go through the center. See, this crosses the circle, but it doesn't go through the center. If it crosses the circle and goes through the center, that's called a diameter. Okay, so we'll put a little D here for diameter. And then we'll change colors one more time and we'll draw another line. Oh, let's actually draw a straight line using a tool. Here we go. Lines by definition are straight. Here's a straight line from the center to any point on the edge, so it could be anywhere. And that's called a radius. So a radius is actually half of a diameter. See, because you could go from, you go halfway across is one radius, and the other halfway across is the other radius, and that equals the diameter. So that's what we have. The radius is the distance from the center to the outside edge. The diameter is the distance all the way across. And the center is the point that's equidistant from all the outside edges. So it's the same distance. This point in the middle is the same distance away as all the other edges. Okay? Now, a couple of little formulas. The diameter is written D equals 2R, and that just means 2 times R, or 2 radiuses. More than one radius is actually called radii. 2 radii is equal to diameter. But I don't know, it doesn't matter that much. The radius, we can see that it's half of the diameter, so it can be written as the radius is equal to diameter over 2. So here's two little formulas. The diameter is D equals 2 times R, and R for radius is D divided by 2. Or you could say 1/2 times diameter. 1/2 diameter equals radius. All right, hopefully that makes sense to you. We have to go through and we have to find the radius and a diameter. So we have a circle. Here's a circle. And we know that the radius, it doesn't matter what color you... Ooh, that's another circle. It doesn't matter too much about the color. I just like to choose different colors all the time. Here's the radius. Sorry, this is the diameter. It goes right through the center. And hopefully I did that right. And it's 20 feet. It shows this in the book. 20 feet is the diameter. And it says find the diameter of the circle. The diameter of the circle is 20 feet. Find the radius. So find the radius. If we know that the diameter is 20 feet, then the radius equals D divided by 2. So that's equal to D, which is 20, divided by 2, which is equal to 10, and it's in feet. That's how you do it. Pretty cool. If we have another circle, and this time we only have the radius drawn in, we have our little center here, we have a radius drawn in like this, and the radius is 7 meters. 7 meters looks like that. Hopefully that looks like 7 meters. 7m. 7 meters. Maybe I could clean that up a little bit. Let's make it a little bigger. 7 meters. Okay, so our formula to find the diameter, because it says find the diameter, diameter equals 2 times R. I keep writing R first. 2R equals 2 times, what is the radius? 7 meters. And 2 times 7 is 14 meters. So there's our answer. Pretty cool. That's all there is to it. You have to understand. There is something else that's kind of cool that's called circumference. And it's C-I-R, if I can get my pen to write, C-I-R-C-U-M-F-E-R-E-N-C-E. Circumference is kind of like perimeter. It's similar to perimeter, and perimeter is the distance around, and so that's what we have here. But circumference is always about circles, and perimeters is about triangles and squares and rectangles and other things. But circumference is about circles. So if we have a circle and the circumference is the distance around. Now I'm going to have to just draw this freehand, and we don't know. It's the distance around. So circumference equals the distance around the circle. Now the cool thing is that they came up with a really neat formula using a symbol, and the symbol is pi. And it is almost Pi Day. March 14 is coming, and we're going to have to talk about that more. But circumference equals pi, and you know how to draw pi. It looks like that. It's a little squiggly with a couple lines coming out, a couple of legs, times d. And d is the diameter. Or circumference, there's two of them, because diameter can also be written as radius. Right? Radius is half as big as the diameter. The diameter is twice as big as the radius, so we're going to write this as 2 pi times r. 2 pi r. Now really what we're doing is we're multiplying 2 times the radius. 2 times the radius is the diameter. And so you might think we should write this as pi times 2 times r, because 2 times r is the diameter. But this feels awkward to do c pi 2r. They like to say it's the same. You could use it. But they like to say C equals, sorry, I forgot the equal sign, 2 pi r. And that's just how they always say it. You'll hear mathematicians the world over say circumference equals 2 pi r, or circumference equals pi times diameter. And believe it or not, they actually usually use this one, even though it has more letters and is harder to say, or more symbols. Okay, so once we know the formula, which is C equals pi times diameter, or C equals 2 times pi times radius, we have to be able to figure out what pi stands for. And there's a really cool thing that we're going to talk about in class, but it shows us that if we compare the diameter of a circle, the distance across, and the distance around is always just a little more than 3 times the distance across. So the distance across compared to the distance around is always 3 times. A little more than 3 times, and they call that pi. And a little more than 3 times for us today is going to tell us that pi equals 3.14. A little more than 3. So pi is a little more than 3 times the diameter. So you can see that if it were 10 feet across the circle, then it would be a little more than 3 times 10 around the circle. So it would be, if we just drew a circle, let's just do that. We have a circle. Say the diameter, because this is one we can do in our head. Diameter is 10 feet. Like a tree whose diameter is 10 feet across. It's a big tree. The circumference is the distance around. The circumference equals pi times d, which is equal to 3.14 times 10. And I can use a parenthesis to show times instead of an x. And 3.14 times 10 is actually, you can do this in your head, 31.4 feet. All I had to do was move the decimal over one place, 31.4. So it would be 31 feet around the tree. That's how that works. And they give you a couple of samples. They give you some with the radius and some with the diameter. And you just have to use the formula. So if they give you a circle and they only give you a radius, and they say the radius is 2 centimeters, and you have to find the circumference, then you use the formula. C equals, if you only have the radius, you use the formula C equals 2 pi r. And so that's equal to 2 times 3.14 times r, which is 2 centimeters. And you can use a calculator. I've got, ooh, that noise is my calculator. 2 times 3.14 times 2 equals, or you could kind of go in your head 2 times 2 and multiply that times 3.14, and you could estimate that it's about 2 times 3 is 6 times 2 is 12. It's about 12, and then when you use your calculator, it gives you a better answer, 12.56 centimeters. Okay, that's that one. If we draw another circle, let's switch colors because we've already used red and green. We have another circle, and we're going to use the diameter this time, so across the whole circle through the center. And we'll say that this one is 14 feet. Then use your other formula. C equals pi times diameter. There we go. Pi times diameter, which equals 3.14 times 14, because the diameter is 14, and you get out your calculator again. That's the nice thing. I mean, you could do this. You could do this longhand, 3.14 times 14, but it's okay on this kind of problem to use your calculator. 3.14 times 14. And it makes sense for you to think about it. What's 3 times 10? Well, that's 30. 3 times 15. 3 times 15 is 45. So this is like this is like an estimate. And I always like you to estimate to see if your calculator makes sense. In the calculator it says 43.96 feet. Alright, so my 4 doesn't, there, 43 and 96 hundredths feet. And that's pretty close to my estimate of 45, so I think we'll call that a good answer. That's how it's done. I think the rest of this you can do without me. So, oh, there's one more thing I do need to show you. They want you to be able to find the circumference of a half circle. All right, so say we have this half circle here. I wonder if I can erase just, ooh, that's drawing lines. Here, I want to do this. We're going to just erase this. Hopefully it can disappear. We're finding the circumference of a half circle. Well, I think you could figure that out. I think you could figure out that the circumference of a regular circle is pi times d. And since we're only going to do half a circle, we're going to divide it by 2. Does that make sense? I think that you could do that. If you had only the radius, then you'd go circumference equals 2 pi r, because that's the radius, divided by 2. And in this one it's even simpler because 2 and 2 cancel out. So it's just equal to pi times the radius. So if it's a half circle, you do pi times the radius, or if you have the diameter, you cut the diameter in half and then multiply it by pi. Sorry about the dogs. Hold on. He doesn't want to go outside, but he also doesn't want to stop barking. Alright, so if we do this really quick with a half circle, and we say that this half circle is 7 centimeters, then we're going to use this one, because this uses a diameter. This is a diameter right here. If we used a radius, then we'd have to do something else. This one is the diameter. So we say C equals pi times d over 2. Notice I write it out every time. I want you to do the same thing. You have to write it out every time just to please me. 3.14, but it helps you remember the formula. Diameter is 7 centimeters divided by 2. And then in your calculator, you just write down 3.14 times 7 equals, and that's 21.98, and then divide that by 2, and you get 10.99. And if you were to estimate 3 times 7 is 21, divided by 2 is around 10 or 11, so 10.99 makes sense, and we've got centimeters as an answer. Okay, so half circle is the same as a circle. You just cut your answer in half. Divide by 2. Divide by 2. I think you can make sense of that. Nice job today, guys. See you in class.